What is going on, YouTube? This is Luke Cardwalker. Today I want to show you guys the deck I am going to be playing for this new format, which will be coming into effect on Monday, October 14th, I think it is. But anyway, so obviously the splashability of Orchest is out. I was testing around with that for a little bit, and it was awesome, but everybody was playing it, and obviously a Lancia will just completely counter it. So I want to show you guys what I've come up with for Super Quants for this upcoming format. And I honestly, in playtesting this, so far it's been pretty great. I've played a few decent decks, nothing super meta, but I think honestly it will be able to compete with things like Thunder Dragon or Altergeist, Pendulums, anything really. Just because Super Quants have the ability to play through interruptions as well as break boards. So I'm going to get into showing you guys what this deck profile. So to start off, we have, of course, our 3 Super Quantal Fairy Alphen. Now this guy's probably the heart and soul of the deck. We want to get access to him as quickly as possible, and if you're playing somebody smart, they'll know that this is what they need to try to interrupt. So what he does is you use his, you tribute him off, you randomly special summon 1 Super Quant from the deck, and the other 2 go to grave. So immediately you're getting 3 free effects right there, and you can just chain block your opponent. So if your opponent is smart, they'll try to ash this or impermanence it. So really we want to try to bait out any of those interruptions before we use his effect. Now to go along with him, we are playing 3 of White Layer. Now, White Layer came out in Dark Neostorm, and he really allows us to play this deck in 2019 with Master Rule 4. He basically, his main purpose is to search out our Alphen. When he's sent to grave, he searches out Alphen from the deck or from the grave. And also, he can, when he is special or normal summoned, he can send a Super Quant from deck to grave, use their effects, and then also he will copy their level and attribute, which really plays well with a few other cards that we're playing. So we're also going with 3 of Super Quantum Red Layer. Now he's great. If you have no monsters on board, he can special summon himself for free. And then when he's summoned, he can add a Super Quant card from graveyard to hand. Also, when he's sent to grave, he's a monster reborn for Super Quants. So he's just a board presence machine. He's probably one of the better of the Super Quants, if not the best. And then we're also playing 3 of Green Layer. Now, Green Layer is probably the one we want to see the least. However, she does allow us to put up more board presence as well as dig through our deck. So when she's summoned, she has the ability to summon a Super Quant from your hand. Also, when she's sent to grave, you can discard a Super Quant card and draw a card. So it just helps to dig through the deck a little bit more. And then 3 copies of our Super Quantum Blue Layer. Now, Blue Layer is probably second or third best. When she's summoned, she searches out any Super Quant card from the deck. So that can be any one of our other Rangers, or it could be the field spell. Just a great way to get whatever you need into your hand. And that's it for all the Super Quants. Hopefully they'll make more eventually, but they're great for what they are. So along with the Super Quants, playing the Danger package, so 2 Snakes, 2 Jackalopes, and 2 Nessies. These ones are just right for us, mainly because so Dangers can help us to get our Super Quant effects off, because when our Super Quants are sent to grave, their effects activate. Also, Danger Nessie is a level 7, so that helps us go into our level 7 Xyz monster, the Luster Rex. And Jackalope and Tsuchinoko are both level 3, so that helps us go into our level 3 Xyz. And then for the hand trap lineup, we are playing 2 Ash Blossom. I didn't want to run 3, just didn't want to see too many of the same hand trap in my hand. Also playing 2 Nibiru in the main. Honestly, with the way that the ban list came out, Thunder Dragons are going to be everywhere. and Orcus isn't going anywhere either. Then you also have decks like Salamangreat. Really, there's a even with this card being out, there's a bunch of combo decks that are still going to want to play. So it's definitely great to put in the main, and at worst case scenario, it can be discarded off of the danger. And then to round out the hand traps, 2 Imperm. I chose Imperm over Effect Veiler mainly because you can set this and lock out a spell or trap zone, or it dodges Called by the Grave, which is always nice. And then for spells, we have 2 Twin Twister, just to help break through that back row. Also, with Twin Twister, it can help us with our dangers, or it could also facilitate our Super Quant effects as well. So it does great for us. And then 3 copies of Called by the Grave. Called by is just a great card to have. We can eat hand traps in this deck. However, at certain points we don't want to. Like for Alphen, if they have an Ash, we want to be able to stop that. And then 3 copies of Instant Fusion. We want as much advantage as we can get, and we want to have a little bit of protection against Nibiru because we do as much summoning as possible in this deck. Like I said, I'm not trying to go for Great Magnus right off the board. You can make Great Magnus in this deck, and it's actually fairly easy, but usually not on turn 1. But we do a lot of summoning, and we are trying to go second. So we're playing 3 copies of Mind Control just so we can get our opponent's monsters and use them as material for our monsters, and basically use their deck against them. And then to round off our spells, we play 1 for 1. Alphen is a level 1, and this helps out with our Super Quant effects as well. And then E-Telly. The cool thing about E-Telly, Blue Layer is a level 3 Psychic. So you summon her off of E-Telly and you search a card. It's just so free. And then 1 of the field spell. Don't want to play more than 1 because, like I said, we're not trying to go into Great Magnus, but we can always search it off of Blue Layer, or we can dig into it with our dangers. So it's not a necessary card for us to have. We're trying to break our opponent's board and whittle them down and just outgrind them. So this card, you discard a card from your hand, target a Super Quant monster, and then you summon the corresponding Xyz on top of it. And then also it can tribute itself off and use 3 Xyz monsters, or 3 Super Quant Xyz monsters from the field or in the grave to special summon out Great Magnus. So it definitely allows us to play big boy. So we're going to go off to the extra deck now, and in the extra deck, we are playing 1 Phoenix just to help get rid of that back row. 1 Hita. This card has been working great for me. I started playing this a while ago. Our red layer is fire type, but more than that, white layer can send red layer and then become a fire type. So, or I'm sorry, fire attribute. Fire type, I'm talking Pokemon. But it can become a fire attribute, and then we can steal our opponent's Ash Blossom, or like even a Gren Maju that's been coming up a few times, and then just use that to link up into Boral Sword and then OTK. Then we're playing 1 of the new Super Quant Link monster. He is great to have. He just requires 2 effect monsters, 2+ effect monsters, including a Super Quant monster. Every time a Super Quant Xyz is summoned underneath him, you draw a card, and that's not once per turn. So if you have 3 of your Super Quants on field, you can just continuously Xyz summon into them, and then you can go off into your Great Magnus, and you've drawn 4 cards. It's really insane card. And then also, along with not being able to be destroyed by card effects, if one of the Xyz monsters underneath him is destroyed by a battle or card effect, he can summon out the corresponding ranger from the deck. So he's pretty great to have. And then 1 Infinitrack Fortress Megaclops. Now this card I'm going to switch out for the BLS link when I get it back from Kyle. Wink, wink. But this is actually a very interesting card to have in this deck. So he just requires 3 Xyz monsters, which we can easily do if we have our Great Magnus out on the field. And then what he does, along with having a 4K booty, he can snatch one of your opponent's monsters and then reborn one of your Xyz from the grave using that monster you just snatched as material for it. And then also he's unaffected by other monster effects except by Xyz monsters, and he can't be destroyed by battle by anything other than Xyz monsters. So as long as you're not playing against Salamangrates, he's actually a pretty nutty card to get on the field. And then we got 1 Avermax just for those niche scenarios where we want to put out something that is going to make our opponent really have to play around. And then 1 Boral Sword to OTK. We can easily OTK with this deck, and this is the way to do it. Also, there are ways to just swarm the board, and it's really nasty. So that's all of our link monsters. And then we're playing 1 of each of the Xyz for the Super Quants. So Grand Pulse is an MST. And for all of these guys, if they have their corresponding ranger underneath them. So if Grand Pulse has blue layer underneath her, it's a quick effect. If Ouroboros has green layer underneath it, it's a quick effect. So they have to have the corresponding ranger to be a quick effect. Otherwise, it's just spell speed 1. So anyway, Grand Pulse is a MST, so it pops a back row. Ouroboros is a Book of Moon. You detach to just flip a monster face down. Magna Liger is a monster pop. It can pop any monster on the field. And then Luster X is an effect Veiler. So that the ones I go into most are probably these 2, unless you're playing like a back row deck. Then you want to use this to just be able to pop a monster. And then it doesn't matter if you use this as link material because you'll just go in, you'll just use it to make your Great Magnus anyway. Speaking of, we have our Great Magnus. He is the big Megazord of the deck. This guy is insane. If you can get 6+ materials underneath him, you're going to win the game unless your opponent has a Kaiju. But even then, he can give you some advantage. So what he does, if he has 2+ materials on him, he can, as a quick effect, detach a material and then shuffle 1 card on the field into the deck. So it's non-targeting, non-destruction removal, which is just insane. So if your opponent has something like, let's say they have Avermax. If you use Great Magnus, you can spin back Avermax, and then his effect won't trigger because he gets sent back to the extra deck, and that's like the only way that his effect won't activate, because it doesn't the game state doesn't recognize that he's left the field. And then 4+ materials, he's unaffected by all card effects except by Super Quant cards. And let's be honest, how many times are you going to run into another Super Quant player? Probably never. And then 6+ materials, this is where he gets insane. Your opponent cannot add cards from the deck to the hand by card effects. Yeah, he's a better version of Colossus, because your opponent can't even draw. All they can do is draw for turn, and that's it. They can't search. They can't they can't use trade in. Nothing. It's just he just shuts them out from their deck, and it's great. And then when he's sent to grave, so if you were to link with him, he specials out 3 Xyz, 3 different Super Quant Xyz from the grave, and that's how you make your Infinitrack boy. So you just link up with this, summon this, steal a monster, bring back one of your Xyz. Yeah, it's pretty great. And then playing 1 Starving Venom as a super poly target. Like I said, Thunder Dragon's going to be everywhere. Orcus isn't going anywhere. It's just less splashable, but there's still going to be plenty of Orcus players. And then our instant fusion targets, we got Thousand Eyes and Millennium Eyes. So Thousand Eyes if we want to take opponent's monster and just help clear the board. And then Millennium Eyes, we want to protect ourselves against Nibiru. And that's all for our extra deck. Let's check out the side deck. Now, the side deck is flexible as always. Just depends on what you want to play. I'm, of course, playing 3 Super Poly just to help get rid of those big boards. Thunder Dragons, Orcus, you name it. There's something for it. Also, you can play more super poly targets like Diplex or Chimera is great for a Salamangreat matchup, or Marine Cess when that becomes a thing. And then 3 copies of Lancia. Again, Thunder Dragon, Orcus, anything that needs to banish. Dinos need to banish to do anything. Then for back row decks, we got our evenly matched, just to help. Like I said, we're trying to break their board. We're not trying to OTK. You can switch these out for Red Reboot. Maybe put in a few more dangers and a little less hand traps, and you can go for that OTK. But I found that just trying to break their board and then outgrind them is much better. And then if our opponent makes us go first, which if we choose to go second, or if they see that we're maining mind controls, they're gonna make you go first. 3 copies of Artifact Sanctum and 1 Scythe, just to help lock them out. If you play against an Orcus player or a Thunder Dragon player or any player that uses the extra deck, this is great. It just locks them out, gives you a free monster so that you can link up, and then on your turn you just Boral Sword them. And then the last 2 cards, we have 2 Dark Ruler no more. Again, don't really care about not being able to do battle damage. It's about breaking their board. So this is actually a great card for us. So for those break my board decks that you play against, it just helps you to break that board. So guys, I hope you like the deck profile. Let me know any comments, any suggestions that you have for the deck. I love playing this deck. It is definitely my favorite, and I hope to get you guys some good duels with it coming up here pretty soon. For everybody that's going to the PPG and to the regional in Columbus this weekend, good luck to you guys. Really just have a bunch of fun. It's a great event. Hopefully somebody wins that big prize pool. So as always, guys, remember to have fun, and may the cards be with you. Peace out.